The first thing I noticed was the bruise. Not the kind you get from bumping into a table. It was on her wrist, shaped like fingers, half hidden under a sleeve she kept pulling down. My daughter sat across from me at the diner, stirring coffee she never drank, and every few seconds her eyes darted to the parking lot, like she expected someone to walk in. Her son sat beside her, 5 years old. Quiet in a way no 5-year-old should be. He didn't ask for crayons. He didn't swing his legs under the booth. He just sat there, watching his mother's face, reading it like a child who had learned too early that silence was survival. I had driven 2 hours to meet her. She called me the night before and said she needed to talk, not over the phone, in person. Her voice was flat, careful, the kind of voice people use when they're afraid someone is listening. So I came, and now I sat across from my only daughter, staring at a bruise she thought I couldn't see, and I felt something rise inside me that I hadn't felt in years. Not sadness, not pity, something older, sharper, and far more dangerous. "Tell me," I said. She looked at her son. He looked at her. Some silent agreement passed between them, the kind that breaks a mother's heart. "He took the house," she whispered. "He put it in his mother's name. I found out yesterday." I set my coffee down slowly. "The house I helped you buy?" She nodded. "He said it was always supposed to be a family asset. His family, the house. The one I co-signed when she was 26 and full of hope. The one I put $40,000 toward because I believed her husband when he shook my hand and said he'd take care of her. I remembered his smile that day. Polished, practiced. I should have known. "Where are you staying?" I asked. "A motel off Route 9, she said. "He changed the locks 2 days ago." My grandson looked up at me. "Grandma," he said softly, "can we go to your house?" I reached across the table and held his small hand. "Yes," I said. "Right now." My daughter shook her head. "Mum, you don't understand." His mother, she's a real estate attorney. She handled the paperwork. She made it legal. I smiled. Not a warm smile. A patient one. "Get in the car," I said. "Both of you." She stared at me. "What are you going to do?" I left cash on the table and stood up. Something I should have done a long time ago. Because my daughter didn't know. She never knew. And it was time I stopped protecting her from the truth and started protecting her with it. 3 years. That's how long my daughter had been disappearing. Not physically, not all at once, but slowly, like a photograph left in the sun. First, she stopped calling every Sunday. Then she missed Thanksgiving. Then Christmas. Each time, an excuse delivered in that same flat voice. "We're busy. He has work. Maybe next month." I told myself it was normal. Newlyweds need space. Young families find their rhythm. But mothers know. We always know. We just don't always act. That was my mistake. On the drive back, my grandson fell asleep in the back seat, his head tilted against the window, his small body surrendering to the kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with being tired. My daughter sat beside me, rigid, her hands folded tight in her lap. "How long?" I asked quietly. I didn't specify. I didn't need to. She was silent for a mile. Then 2. "Since the wedding," she finally said. My knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. "His mother told me on our wedding night that I was lucky," she continued. "She said women like me don't usually marry into families like theirs. She said I should remember that every single day." "Women like you," I repeated. "She meant poor," my daughter said. "She meant beneath them." I said nothing, because if I spoke right then, I would have said something I couldn't take back, and I needed to be precise. Anger is useful, but only when it's aimed. When we arrived at my house, I carried my grandson inside and tucked him into the guest bed. He murmured something in his sleep, something that sounded like "don't yell," and my chest cracked open. I closed the door gently and stood in the hallway, breathing. My daughter waited in the kitchen. I made tea, because that's what you do when the world is falling apart. You boil water. You find cups. You sit down. You breathe. "His name is on the deed?" I asked. "It was both our names," she said. "But 6 months ago, he asked me to sign something. He said it was refinancing paperwork. His mother prepared it. I didn't read it carefully. You signed away your ownership." She nodded, tears falling now. I trusted him. I placed my hands flat on the table. "Tell me everything," I said. "Every detail. Every document. Every conversation. Don't leave anything out. She talked for 2 hours. I listened without interrupting. When she finished, the tea was cold and the house was silent. I stood, rinsed the cups, and dried my hands. Then I walked into my office and opened the bottom drawer of my desk. Inside was a folder I hadn't touched in years. Not because I forgot about it, because I hoped I would never need it. Let me tell you something about myself that my daughter never knew. When I was 31 years old, I bought my first property with money I saved, working double shifts at a textile mill, a small duplex on the east side of town. Everyone told me I was foolish. A woman, alone, no husband, no connections. But I bought it, fixed it, rented it, then I bought another, and another. By the time I was 45, I owned 11 properties across 3 counties. By 50, I had a small development company. Nothing flashy, nothing loud. I kept it quiet, because quiet money is safe money. I put it in a trust, hired good people, and let it grow while I lived simply. My daughter knew I was comfortable. She didn't know I was wealthy. I never told her because wealth changes how people see you, and I wanted her to build her own life without my shadow. But that decision, the one I made out of love, left her vulnerable. She married a man whose family smelled money and saw none, so they treated her like she had nothing to offer. And she believed them. That ended tonight. The next morning, I made calls before sunrise. My attorney first, then my accountant, then a private investigator I had used once before when a tenant tried to forge a lease agreement. I need everything on the family, I told the investigator. Property transfers, business dealings, court records. All of it. How far back? He asked. As far as it goes. By noon, my attorney was at my kitchen table with his laptop open. The transfer is technically legal, he said carefully. Your daughter signed the document. Under false pretenses, I said. He nodded. That's what we need to prove. If the mother-in-law misrepresented the document, if your daughter was coerced or deceived, the transfer can be challenged. Do it, I said. My daughter stood in the doorway, her son hiding behind her legs. Mom, she said. They'll fight back. They have money. They have connections. I looked at her. So do I. She frowned, confused. Sit down, I said. There's something I should have told you a long time ago. The look on her face when I showed her the trust documents, the property records, the account statements. She didn't speak for 5 minutes. She just stared at the numbers, like they were written in a language she didn't recognize. You own all of this? She whispered. Yes. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because I wanted you to be loved for who you are. Not what I have. She covered her face and cried. Not from relief. From the realization that the people who made her feel worthless had no idea who her mother was. They called me trash, she said through her hands. They said I contributed nothing. I placed my hand on her shoulder. They'll learn. That evening, my phone rang. I recognized the number. My son-in-law, Mrs. Palmer, he said, his voice smooth and careful. I hear you're getting involved. I am, I said. This is a misunderstanding, he said. The house situation is temporary. We're working things out. By changing the locks on my daughter. A pause. She was emotional. She needed space. She needed safety, I replied. There's a difference. His tone shifted. My mother handled the paperwork properly. Everything is legal. If you pursue this, you'll waste your money. That's kind of you to worry about my finances, I said. Don't. He laughed softly. You're a retired woman living alone. Let's not pretend this is a fair fight. I let the silence sit. Then I spoke. I'll see you soon, I said. And I hung up. He thought I was bluffing. He thought I was nobody. That assumption was about to cost him everything. Within a week, the investigator delivered his report. It was worse than I expected. My son-in-law's mother hadn't just taken my daughter's house. Over the past 3 years, she had systematically moved assets, opened credit lines in my daughter's name, and used her signature on documents my daughter had never seen. The house was just the beginning. There were 2 car loans, a line of credit, and a business registration, all connected to my daughter's identity. She used your daughter like a blank check, my attorney said. My daughter went white. I didn't sign any of that. No, the attorney said, but someone did. Someone who had access to your personal information. I looked at my daughter. Your husband had all of it? She nodded slowly. Social security card, birth certificate, everything. He kept our documents in his mother's office. He said it was safer there. The room went cold. We're filing criminal charges, I said. My attorney hesitated. That will escalate things significantly. They stole my daughter's identity, I said. They stole her home. They stole her confidence. What exactly are we waiting for? He nodded. I'll prepare the filings. If you're listening right now and you know what it feels like to discover someone you trusted used you like a tool, stay with me. This story isn't over. And if you believe every person deserves to be treated with dignity, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps stories like this reach the people who need them most. The response came fast. Not from my son-in-law. From his mother. She arrived at my house unannounced on a Tuesday morning. Black car, designer coat, heels clicking on my porch steps like she was walking into her own property. I opened the door before she could knock. Mrs. Palmer, she said, smiling like we were old friends. We need to talk. We do, I said. But not here. She looked past me, scanning the house. Where is she? Safe. Her smile tightened. I'm trying to help. This legal action is unnecessary. We can settle this privately. Privately, I repeated. Like the way you privately transferred my daughter's house into your name. Her expression didn't change. That told me everything. She had practiced this. She had rehearsed. Your daughter signed those documents willingly, she said. My daughter was told she was signing refinancing paperwork. That's her word against mine. I leaned against the doorframe. Actually, I said, it's her word. Plus 3 witnesses, plus the notary who your office paid to skip verification. For the first time, her smile cracked. I've hired a forensic accountant, I continued. Every account, every transfer, every signature. You should know that before you decide how you want this to go. She straightened her coat. You're making a mistake. No, I said. I made my mistake 3 years ago when I stayed quiet. I won't make it again. She turned and walked back to her car. Before she opened the door, she looked back. You don't know what you're starting. I know exactly what I'm finishing, I replied. She drove away. I closed the door and exhaled. My daughter stood behind me in the hallway, pale. She'll come back angrier, she said. Good, I said. Angry people make mistakes. The hearing was scheduled for a Thursday. I dressed simply. No jewelry, no performance, just the truth, plain and clean. My grandson stayed with my neighbor, a retired teacher who made him pancakes and let him draw with markers on big sheets of paper. When I kissed him goodbye that morning, he held my face with both hands. Win, Grandma, he said. I promised him I would. The courtroom was small. My son-in-law sat on the other side, avoiding my eyes. His mother sat behind him, composed, spine straight. A woman who had never been told no and didn't intend to start. Their attorney spoke first. He described a family dispute, a simple misunderstanding, a grandmother overstepping boundaries. He used words like emotional, confused, and vindictive, each one aimed at me. Then my attorney stood. He didn't rush. He laid out the timeline, the forged documents, the stolen identity. The credit lines opened without consent. He placed exhibits on the table one by one, each one a nail in a coffin they thought they had buried. My son-in-law's mother leaned forward and whispered to her lawyer. His face changed. Then my attorney said the words that changed the room. We would like to present testimony from a former employee of the respondent's law office. The door opened. A young woman walked in. I had never met her, but my investigator had found her 2 weeks ago. She had worked as a paralegal in my son-in-law's mother's office for 4 years. She quit last year. She kept copies of everything. She sat down, raised her right hand, and swore the oath. I was instructed to prepare documents using Mrs. Palmer's daughter's personal information, she said clearly. I was told the daughter had given verbal consent, but I was never shown written authorization. When I raised concerns, I was told to stop asking questions or find another job. My son-in-law's mother stood up. This is hearsay, she snapped. The judge looked at her calmly. Sit down, the paralegal continued. She described emails she saved, instructions she screenshot, a pattern of behavior that stretched back years, not just with my daughter, but with other clients. My daughter, sitting beside me, began to cry quietly. Your Honor, my attorney said, we are requesting full reversal of the property transfer, cancellation of all unauthorized financial accounts, and referral for criminal investigation. My son-in-law finally looked at me. For the first time, I saw fear. I didn't know, he said, his voice cracking. I swear I didn't know what she was doing. His mother grabbed his arm. Be quiet. But he pulled away. No, he said, I'm done being quiet. The courtroom held its breath. My mother told me the documents were standard, he said. She told me my wife agreed. I believed her because I always believe her. He looked at my daughter. I'm sorry, I should have asked. I should have protected you. My daughter didn't respond. She just looked at me, and in her eyes I saw something I hadn't seen in 3 years. Strength. If you're listening right now and your heart is pounding, that's because truth has weight. It lands hard, and it lands where it matters. If this story means something to you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps these stories find the people who need to hear them. The judge ruled in our favor that afternoon. Temporary orders. The property transfer was frozen. The fraudulent accounts were flagged for investigation. My son-in-law's mother was formally referred for criminal review. Outside the courtroom, she cornered me in the hallway. You think this is over? She hissed. For you? Yes, I said. I have friends in this county. Judges. Officials. I looked at her directly. And I have the truth. Let's see which one lasts longer. She stormed away, heels echoing down the corridor like a clock running out of time. That night, my daughter sat on my porch while her son slept inside. I didn't think anyone would believe me, she said. I believed you before you said a word, I replied. She was quiet for a moment. Why didn't you ever tell me about the money? The properties? Because I didn't want your worth tied to mine. I wanted you to know you were enough on your own. She wiped her eyes. I forgot that for a while. You remembered today, I said. That's what matters. The investigation moved quickly after that. The paralegal's evidence was thorough. Emails confirmed instructions. Timestamps showed documents were altered after my daughter had already signed other paperwork. The forensic accountant traced money that had been quietly moved through 3 different accounts, all controlled by my son-in-law's mother. She hired the best lawyers in the county. It didn't matter. Evidence doesn't care about connections. 2 months later, she was formally charged with fraud, identity theft, and forgery. Her law license was suspended pending review. The house was returned to my daughter's name. Every fraudulent account was closed. My son-in-law filed for divorce from my daughter himself. Not because anyone told him to. Because he finally understood that the family he thought he was protecting was the one doing the damage. He came to my house one last time. He stood on the porch, hands in his pockets, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. I should have stood up sooner, he said. Yes, I said. You should have. Can I still see my son? I looked at my daughter, who stood behind me. She nodded. That's between you and her, I said. But if you ever let anyone hurt them again, you'll answer to me. He nodded. He understood. 6 months later, the park near my house looked different. Not because anything had changed about the trees or the benches or the way the light hit the pond in the afternoon. It looked different because we were different. My grandson ran across the grass, laughing so loud that people on other benches turned to smile. He kicked a soccer ball, missed, tripped, got up, and kicked it again. That's what children do when they feel safe. They fall without fear. My daughter sat beside me, sunglasses on, a book open on her lap that she wasn't reading. She was watching her son. He slept through the night again, she said. Good. 3rd week in a row. I squeezed her hand. She had started working again. Not at some corporate office, not at a job someone handed her. She took a position at a community legal aid center, helping women navigate exactly the kind of situation she had survived. She was good at it. She was patient. She listened the way someone listens when they know what silence costs. Mum, she said quietly, thank you for not giving up on me. I turned to her. I never considered it. She smiled. A real one. The kind that reaches the eyes and stays. My grandson ran back to us. Breathless, grass-stained, grinning. Grandma, he said. Watch me kick it over the bench. Show me, I said. He did. He missed. He laughed anyway. If you're listening right now, I want you to remember something. The people who try to make you feel small are not powerful. They are afraid. Afraid that if you stand up, if you speak, if you stop accepting what they hand you, their entire world falls apart. And it does. Silence is not peace, it is permission. And the moment you take that permission back, everything changes. If this story reminded you of your own strength or someone you love, take a second to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps these stories reach the people who need them most. Because sometimes the most dangerous person in the room isn't the one with the loudest voice. It's the quiet woman who's been watching, waiting, and building something no one ever thought to look for.